Hello everyone. Hello everyone. My name is Dr. Kamuriel. I'm the founder and CEO of Teachers Policy Institute based here in Lagos, Nigeria. Also, today I'll be taking us through the process of policy making. But before we start, I'd like to define what policy means. For my definition here, I said policy is a specific decision or set of actions designed to carry out a course of action. And from here, from the first slide, I said it's a definite course or a method of action selected by the government, institution, group, or individuals from among alternatives and in the light of given conditions to guide and usually to determine present and future decisions. Like I mentioned the right time that it's a specific decision designed to carry out what a course of action so as to what determines the present and the what and the future decisions. Also, and such specific decision or let me say set of decisions together with relative action designed to what to implement the this course of what action so as to effect the change. And from a layman definition, which I always go about with, is policy is a decision-making framework or course of action to achieve a desired effect or change. Policy is a decision-making framework or course of actions to achieve a desired effect or change. You cannot, okay, so one thing about policy is that you are trying to solve a problem so as to do what effect a change. And that's why I said here that policy is a decision-making framework or course of action of change, or course of action to achieve a desired effect or change. Now, policy is broad and visionary, and it could be many things. One, policy can set direction. Yes, because when policy effects change, it will set directions to a particular what solution to a cause of what to a cause of action. Also, it can also express standards, behaviors, and expectations to guide what actions. It could also be what a statement of principle. Why not forgetting that it could be a concept or a stated position of what intended outcomes. And policy are distinct from procedures and guidelines, which are somehow operational instructions or processes for applying a policy decisions. Policies can be operational and it might not be operational. That is, operational procedures interpret policies and define activities that must be carried out to implement the directions and goals set by policies. That's what the operational policies, because they interpret policies and define actions that must be carried out to implement the directions and goals set by what these policies. And they are designed to achieve what output to also reach consistent results. And they also place boundaries on how much individual decision is permitted when interpreting policy. So that's just one thing about what procedures and policies. Now, what are the stages of policy process? What are the stages of policy process? The first and the main thing is what? Identification of issues or problem. You have to first what? Identify the problem in in society. What problem are you trying to what? Are you trying to create a solution for? The second one is what? Policy formulation. And the third one is what? Policy adoption. The fourth one is what? Policy implementation. Another one is what? Policy assessment and evaluation. Now let's start with the measure of the first one. Issue identification. How do you identify issues? What are the problems you think require attention in your community? Now, publicized demands for government action can lead to what? Identification of policy problems. For example, now, one thing is that there must be a problem they are trying to identify before a policy can be made. So now, from there, you do what? You identify this solution. For example, let's say you are trying to make sure that men and women have equal rights. So now you want to propose a policy that would be made available to be passed into law so that men and women can have what equal rights. So you have to first identify the problems. That's the first stage in what policy process. And the second stage is what policy formulation. Now that you've identified the problem, now you now want to do what formulate the what the policy via what your policy proposal. And this can actually be formulated through what so many political channels by policy planning organizations, interest group, government bureaucracy, state legislatures, and the president and the Congress. So from there, you have to do what? Formulate your policy. And the one thing is that public opinion influences what public policy. So you have to do what carry the people along, the stakeholders, the community. You want to propose something that will effect a change in the community. You have to do what meet the stakeholders, carry them along, hear their opinion, hear their views, know what they want. And that's one of the key things that you have to do research before you can do what formulate a policy. Another one is what now? After you formulated your policy now, you now move to what? Policy adoption and legitimization. Policy is always what? Legitimized as a result of what? Policies, public statements, or actions of government officials, both elected and appointed, the president, state legislature, congressmen, agency officials, and the courts. So this includes what? Executive orders, budgets, law and appropriations, rules and regulations, and administrative and court decisions that set what? Policy directions. So now, who are those that are going to adopt the policy? Definitely you want the policy maker. You are just the policy analyst and the policy formulator. So now, after it has been adopted or rejected, let's say now your policy has been adopted. Now, implementation. You are not the one that will implement it. You have already formulated the policy, it has been adopted. So now it's now left to the policymaker to do implement it. And policy implementation includes all the activities that result from the official adoption of the policy. When the policy has been adopted, the policy implementation process has begun. And policy implementation is what happens after a law is passed. So and one thing is that we should never assume that the passage of law is the end of the policy making place. No. Sometimes laws are passed and nothing happens. True. So passage of law is the first process in the policy implementation. So when a policy is being adopted, then the policy implementation process has begun. And let me give you some tips that you need to know while formulating your policy. The first thing is preparation. You have to prepare well for changing policies. You have to prepare very, very well for changing policies. You don't just say, okay, I want to propose this policy. And you do not even prepare, you never even research, you're just formulating it. You will end up having, let me say, no success rate in your quest. So you have to prepare very well. Make sure that you conduct the necessary research to get to know as much as possible about the issue. And the second one is plan carefully for policy change. Plan carefully for policy change to ensure that your overall strategy makes sense and that any policy is necessary and appropriate part of it. Strategic planning is essential. Plan very well. If you don't plan to success, you plan to fail. So you need to do what? Plan carefully for policy change. Zero planning, zero success. Effective planning, effective success. Another one too is what? Maintain personal contact. Ensure that you are able to maintain personal contact with those that can influence or make policy. Like personal relationship or even with opponent, those are the key to successful advocacy of all kinds, and changing policy is no exception. Make sure that you establish or maintain personal contact. That is the relationship, build network. And the fourth on the list is force of the community. Understand what the citizen will support. You cannot do something in the community you don't understand. You have to understand what the community will support, what they will resist, and how they can be persuaded. because you will have a far greater chance of success if you set out to change policies in ways that the community will support or at least tolerate than if you challenge people's basic beliefs. So you need to know the pulse of the community of people, know what they will support, know what they will resist, because without them, your policies, your policy process can be a total failure. And another thing is what positivism, where you can and choose statistics that emphasize the or where you can choose statistics that what emphasize the positive, be positive. If you are trying to change your policy, be very, very positive. Because without that, your policies naturally have what might have issues. And another thing is what participation involve as many people as possible in your strategic planning and action. You can't do it alone, it's a teamwork because together everybody will achieve more. You can't do it alone. Try to engage key people, particularly like I mentioned the other time, the opinion leaders, trusted community figures, but concentrate on making your effort participatory. That will give it what credibility. Involve them, carry them along. Make sure that they are involved in every stage of the policy process. And another thing is that publicity. Keep people informed of your efforts and issues. Keep them known. Keep them in known of every of your efforts. That's how you have to do what. Use you have to use the means of social media to do what to keep people informed. Publicity is very key process in public policy making. And another thing is what persistence. Policy change can take a long time, but you have to do what monitor and evaluate your change to make sure that they're having the what desired effects and change them if they are not. Check your pros and cons and see which works and which does not work. So, like I mentioned earlier, that make sure that you do necessary research, carry the people along in the society. Don't forget that public opinion influences what public policy, and with that, you are going to have a what success in what in your policy process making. Carry them along because you can't do it alone, and together everybody achieves more. Thank you.